So you want to be a real estate investor and you've decided that house hacking is the strategy for you. Maybe it's your first investment, maybe it's your 10th, I don't know. But I think house hacking has a lot of kind of mysteriousness around it, and it really looks very different in different seasons of life. So in this video, I'm gonna unpack exactly what house hacking is, what it's not, how you can get started, and we're gonna get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about eating, sleeping, working, playing, the good, the bad of living in Atlanta, Georgia, buying, selling, investing, or anything in between, well, subscribe below and ring the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know when we release new content like this and stay up to date on the local market. My name's Denny. The team and I get calls each and every day from people just like you looking to make the move, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving next week, next year, or anytime in between, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move to Atlanta, or in this case, find your best house to accomplish your house hacking goals. So what's house hacking? Well, essentially, it is taking your primary residence and turning it into a real estate investment. And so my first question would be, what is your strategy that you're going to use in conjunction with house hacking? What do you mean, Denny? Is it short-term rental, long-term rental? Is it fix and flip? Denny, how can you do all of that in a house hack? Well, here's how. When I was a young man and I graduated from college, my best friend also around the same time, we were living in Atlanta. He graduated from Georgia Tech and bought his father's old townhome in Marietta for like $180,000-ish. I don't remember the exact numbers. We didn't even know what house hacking was. But he and three of his friends, me and two other guys, we all moved in, and between the three of us paying rent for a room, he fully covered his entire mortgage. And so that is what a lot of people think of when they think of house hacking. It's the long-term rental. We were gonna be there for a long time, for years. And so that's a long-term rental strategy to house hacking. You buy a single family home, you move into it, and then you have other people who, offset that cost. And over time, the tenants pay down the rent. You get appreciation over the course of 5, 10, 20 years, and you have this asset you've developed. There's a lot of leverage in that. And the cost of getting started is way lower, right? You're talking about 3%, 5%, whatever you can do, depending on your loan product, financing. I'm gonna do an entire video on financing, traditional and creative, so stay tuned for that. But when you're talking about house hacking, that's the long-term strategy, long-term rental. Denny, how can you use a short-term rental strategy in house hacking? Well, it would look something like this. We had a client recently here in like an in-town trendy kind of a neighborhood in Atlanta where there's Beltline and breweries and things of that nature. Really successful guy, 30, pharmacist, high income, good credit, all the things, but he wasn't married, didn't have any kids, so he was still in a situation where he wanted to house hack, but he didn't want roommates. And so we helped him find this really great, fully renovated property in this really amazing area in town. He wanted to live, he wanted to enjoy the lifestyle. And so he could have bought, been conservative and bought a smaller, cheaper home. But instead of doing that, what we helped him do is we helped him buy fully renovated with a full second basement apartment. So it had 2 bedrooms, living room, as well as a full kitchen, and its own separate, like you could partition it off from the main house, and it had its own entrance. And so in doing that, what we were able to do is he is using the short-term rental strategy because he lives in town, because he lives in a place where it's got good revenue for short-term rentals. Y'all listen to this. He is fully paying for his entire home, which is bigger and nicer than he ever could have afforded on his own personal income. I mean, obviously the bank let him qualify for it, but he didn't want to stretch himself to where he's house poor. And so he bought more house than he could pay for, but then he offset it through short-term rental in his basement. Now, again, if you were married with children, maybe your spouse or your family wouldn't be that excited about having strangers, you being a short-term rental landlord with your basement apartment. But that's another way to do the house hacking, but now using short-term rentals. I even married with 4 kids. You would think house hacking for Denny would be impossible, right? His wife, his kids, they don't need to have people in their basement or have roommates, right? Which we don't. But I just bought a beautiful property. It's like 6,500 square foot primary home, over 4 acres in Alpharetta. Way more house than I would want to be responsible for carrying the note alone. But my mother-in-law, now we're talking about multi-generational house hacking. She bought the property with us. Get this, it has a completely separate detached home with its own 2-car garage, laundry room, bedroom, bathroom, living room, kitchen, like all the things. It's a full-on smaller house on the same property. And so she and I share the expenses, and we end up with a 4-acre beautiful property with a creek and a stream, huge house for myself and my family, smaller home for her because it's just her. She doesn't have all that other stuff or need all that other stuff. And so we're house hacking. You know, I'm in my 40s, she's in her 50s. My wife's a lot younger than me, like 10 years younger than me. So my mother-in-law is like 10 years older than me. But now she's near the grandkids. She's got a great big girl job, makes a lot of money. And I have a successful career, and collectively, you know, it just works for us. Now, we've talked about short-term, we've talked about long-term. Like, we just did a long-term thing, right? Denny, how do you fix and flip houses if house hacking is the strategy? And here's what a lot of people don't know. I'm not talking about like buy, renovate, and sell. You can, believe it or not, whether, you know, you're using hard money, private money, or conventional, like traditional money, there are renovation loans that you can use to buy and renovate and fix and flip a house. You pay a lot more in taxes as ordinary income because it's short-term money, but you can actually use your personal home. You can buy a older, distressed, or property that's in need of some TLC, you know, it needs a little bit of renovations, especially in this market. Here in Atlanta, the really nice homes, even since the market's cooled off, the really nice homes, gone. List them, 100 showings. We had a listing coming last week. First day on market, first weekend, 100 showings, 30 offers, you know, listed 650, under contract, close to $700,000, like crazy fast. If you don't want to fight with those people in that pool, you find one that needs to be fixed up. You buy it. You use financing to buy it and renovate it. You can do that with 3.5%, 5% down, not 10, 15, 20% down. You can buy and renovate a home with very minimal down payment. The bank actually, let's say you want to buy a house for $300,000 and do a $200,000 massive renovation. Well, the bank pays the seller the $300,000. They settle their mortgage and the excess goes to the seller. And then they escrow the other $200,000, which then they put on a draw as a general contractor does the renovations. You don't have to live there. You can roll 6 months of payments into it. And so you buy it, you renovate it. First of all, you're creating equity in the property, right? Through the renovations, through the adding value. I'm meeting a friend for lunch up here at my favorite cafe. It's called Fellows here in Roswell. So I'm walking up there. But you buy it, you renovate it, you create this equity, and then you move into it. Maybe you have a basement apartment like we talked about and you use short-term rental to help pay for it. Maybe you move in roommates and you use the long-term rental strategy to help pay for it. Maybe you have a detached property that you have someone else live in that you can rent out and you help pay for it. And then you wait the 2 years to get beyond ordinary income so that you can get to long-term capital gains. You minimize the tax implications, and then you bought this house for $300, you put $200 in it, you're in it for $500, it's worth $700,000 or $800,000, you sell it and you've reduced your tax burden on selling that property, and you used other people to help you pay for it, and then you go do it again. Really, you could do it every year if you weren't worried about ordinary income tax versus long-term capital gains. You could do it again and again and again, every year, once a year. As soon as you renovate and move in, you start looking for the next one because you live in that house while you're renovating the next house. You got to find it and renovate it, and that takes time, right? So you're almost always in search of buying, renovating, selling, buying, renovating, selling, but you're using loans that are designed for your own personal home because you're moving into it. If you can't tell, you got new properties here, new properties there, my favorite cafe there. I'm gonna go in here and have lunch, but hopefully you got a lot of value out of that house hacking conversation. As usual, call, text, email, schedule a Zoom. We'd be happy to help you make a smooth move. If you haven't, subscribe below. We're gonna do a lot of content like this. So if you love it, you're gonna wanna know when we release it. And until we see you in person, see you on the next episode.